Art Deco resembles a sort of mysterious depth. And to learn how to incorporate it into your house, you need to have a clear idea of where it comes from. Because of its geometrical patterns and bold elements, there is no way to get things wrong since Art Deco is here to show off your style. But the truth is, adding these elements could be fun yet daunting at the same time if you do not know how to effectively use the decorative objects and fixtures you have. This is so interesting how Art Deco, with a streamlined look and expensive materials on one side, and color contrast and making right shadows on the other side, points out our biggest fears and desires at the same time, which is in sharp contrast to more minimalist and nature-inspired and a bit romantic Art Nouveau. It emerged in an era when people seek for wealth, when everything was on the verge of big changes, and the lights of beauty and joy of the colors were slowly injected into society. And if we want to go back to its roots, there has been a long journey creating what we see today. In the early 90s, after the dark Victorian era when major changes happened, Art Deco began in France. But it was not until 1925, during its first exhibition in Paris, that it was named as Arts Décoratifs, where young designers who were the pioneers of what they called later the modern style began such an impressive movement that affected not only the architecture and interior design, but also every aspect of art like fashion and product design. So with the emphasis on modernity back then and considering both elegance and functionality, it flourished to a leading style in Europe and very soon found its way to the US. And you will be surprised if I tell you that during the Second and First World War, it was at its peak in the US, when people were struggling from countless crises. But there are many reasons why it became the style of the era. People of the early 20th century had been through a unique experience in the history of humans. The world was changing so fast, many industrial zones developed, and they were not very much used to technology. Shortly after these changes, the war happened, and people had been through famine, poor economics, and the phenomena we know as the Great Depression. Think about it like this. These changes had already invited an imbalance into their lives, and, after the war, it got even worse. So it was natural to see them fighting to get back on track and mentally defy the situation. And maybe being surrounded by symmetrical shapes gave their houses and their mind the order. And the lavish design reminded people of the good old days they used to have with no crisis. They might not have the access to therapy, but fashion and furniture were at their service. There was the hunger for luxury and wealth, and it was what made Art Deco so unique. And early designers did invent a new style, and it has always been like this. Deep thoughts and great intentions create long-lasting designs and keep themselves repeating again and again, maybe because they are directly connected to many people's subconscious minds. So Art Deco is definitely not a rival, even if the motifs are inspired by some of the familiar shapes of what we assume as symbols of opulence in history, like from Egyptians and classic art. For example, you may know the classic art of Roman is known for its geometric sculptures and depicting every detail. And ancient Egypt is symbolized by pyramid structures. So how did the early designers such as Émile Jacques Rollman, the icon of Parisian decor, René Lalique and Jean Dunon directly use these references? After the beginning of Egyptomania in the 19th century, people became so in love with everything gold in King Tut's tomb. Because, for the first time in 3,000 years, the inner chamber of the tomb was entered, and the inside was full of glitter, glamour, and wonderful paintings. People romanticized the glory of the ancient world, and artists, writers happily helped them to immerse themselves into ancient Egyptian art and world. The allure and mystery of ancient Egyptian civilizations influenced people. The trend manifested in various forms of art, including painting, sculpture, decorative arts, and architecture. and it definitely reflected a broader cultural obsession with Egypt's historical legacy. It made architects such as William Van Allen and furniture designers like Maurice Dufresne, who were influenced by Art Nouveau and Cubism, start to create Art Deco furniture and designs. But it was not the only way how the artist made it reach such a fever pitch. The journey of a French novelist and a French painter to Egypt heated up Egyptomania, and later the discoveries of 1922 Egypt fueled many artists of different genres' appetite. This incident solely is the main cause of many significant art movements. The fascination extended to everyday life and the fine arts, to the point that Cartier advertised Egyptian-inspired jewels, such as a fabulous brooch in the form of an Egyptian fan and its halo tiara of lotus flowers for Her Highness Begum Aga Khan. And in fashion, John had to design a classic dress, a sleeveless gown that glorified the female body. People became interested in Africa, and in 1925, the African-American dancer Josephine Baker became a sensation in Paris. Her skirt was made of bananas, and her erotic dances made her a design icon. Apparently, she inspired many designers and artists, such as Fritz Lamb's standing glass figure in the Lamb work glass. But before learning how to invite the spirit of a tooth to your home, we need to appreciate the creative minds behind it. There are many well-known names and works among the architects and the artists of that era, like George Barbier, whom Vogue called the Knights of Bracelets. He was a member of elite circles of French artists and designers of the period, with an extensive fashionable and flamboyant taste. Or the costume and graphic designer Art, as you can see in his illustrations for Harper's Bazaar, that how Art Deco aesthetics affected his artistic style. The appetite still exists among many interior designers, and you can see the Art Deco inspired designs in famous properties. Among celebrities and famous people, some names adore Art Deco and own some of the most famous Art Deco houses. The J. Crew CEO owns a 5-bedroom New York building in Tribeca. The building was made in the 80s as a factory, and according to Wall Street Journal, he bought it in 2008 for $5.5 million. Then he had the apartment rebuilt and redesigned massively by the French architect and designer Thierry Despont. There are velvet sofas, winged chairs, and leather furniture in the earthy tones in most of the rooms, including a dining room heavily inspired by the Gothic style. You can see exotic wood, ivory, and precious metals in his furniture. The walls are full of patterns, and there is a giant 30s style chandelier too. You can see all the vertical shapes and motifs replicating a pure 30s Art Deco design. You will be surprised to know that even Jennifer Aniston owned an Art Deco mansion. It was a Harold W. Levitt house in Beverly Hills, and after a major overhaul, the 70s house changed to a gem in Beverly Hills properties. She had Stephen Shadley redesign the house into an opulent Art Deco house. Yet none of these houses is the shining star of Art Deco interior designs, until you find Van Baren's home. The house belongs to Alice and her husband, David, who was a banker and art collector. David had a great passion for art and antiques, so he decided to design the home like an art project. And by art, I mean red curtains, black and gold straight lines, and earthy tone walls decorated with noble art pieces by Gustave van de Vostage. David was so diligent that he had a famous Belgian cabinet maker make a showcase for them so guests sitting in the dining room could enjoy their view. Now we know everything we need about Art Deco, and it is time for some excitement. See, incorporating Art Deco in your modern houses could be a risky task. You may compare the furniture with the one you have in your mind and happily pay a lot to add Art Deco glamour to your house, right? Wrong. Think about it this way. Now we know Art Deco means rich, but not a silent and modest rich, but an extravagant and bold form of it. As you can see the examples in tomb paintings in Egypt, art was to reflect the ideal world of the gods, where everything is just balanced and perfect. And on the other side of the story, they made everything so practical. They believed that the beautiful object was to be used as the safe home for the god's spirit. That is the reason why you consider flashy, symmetrical, and geometric forms as Art Deco when it first comes to your mind. To capture the spirit of Art Deco, there are other subtle features and elements that you can simply borrow and add to your already classic, modern, or I don't know, even bohemian home. So nowadays you can have Art Deco with its subtle touches rather than the dominant features. Architects believe that following the Great Depression, people had to change their aesthetic principles, since many of them were not affordable anymore. You can see the striking contrast between the elements of its design. Even with the most minimalist touch, the objects are still separately recognized in a nice harmony. So, 2 points to consider while designing your home is the use of color and the light. Colors are the most striking elements of the Art Deco. There is a fusion of both bold colors and neutral colors. Bold colors such as deep yellow, green, blue, and black shades of shiny and chromic tones mixed with beige to keep the balance. Lighting fixtures and geometrical chandeliers not only add volume to the room but also effortlessly can be added as a decorative object with glass or chrome and minimal streamlined silhouettes. Fabrics are the other major role players that easily differentiate the same sofa or curtain from modern to Art Deco. Any opulent fabrics such as leathers, velvets, zebra prints are desired in Art Deco. Patterns are very important too. The fabric could be solid or having geometric and straight lines. And one thing is for sure here, that there is no room for floral prints since they are too romantic for Art Deco. These are very subtle details for any Art Deco decoration. But in general terms, if you genuinely want to invest in your house, incorporate expensive materials for high-end furnitures and accessories, such as ebony, zebra wood, and marble. You can design the walls with mirrors, glass materials, and accessories too. Big chairs and sofas on the wood flooring, or black and white checker tile, or even floors covered by large rugs in equally loud geometric patterns are other objects and settings you can consider for this style. There are dominant shapes for furniture and patterns, or even for wallpaper motifs. You can see forms of zigzags, sunbursts, triangles, and chevrons in extremely rich materials, such as brass, steel, gilts, and lacquer surfaces. People loved to hang beautiful chandeliers too, yet all of them were specifically made for the space. Nothing is too bold to overshadow the beauty of another object, but to be absorbed in the ambience and complement the whole decoration. That was the whole concept of implementing this specific design in decorating your house. And at the end, I will be showing you very antique and noble works of the designers, giving you the idea of what pure Art Deco looked like this double colonnade table from 1923, or this mahogany Macassar ebony veneer and ivory salonical chair, and this beautiful dressing table designed by Emile Jacques Rollman. It is hard to choose the most gorgeous one, I know. This is the end, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I wish you all the luck with inviting a modern, glamorous Art Deco to your home.